Hello class, today we go to chapter 4, cost of capital. So this is the key concept and skill that we have to achieve when we finish chapter 4. That we know how to determine a firm cost of equity capital, firm cost of debt, and the firm overall cost of capital. And we also understand the before of overall cost of capital and how to manage them. And again, this is your whole checklist. After you finish chapter 4, this is what we expect you to be achieved. Yeah. And this is the chapter outline. In this chapter, we're going to do one by one. First of all, we come up with some preliminary in cost of capital, and then we estimate the cost of equity, cost of debt, and preferred stock, and cost of retained earning. And then we estimate the weighted average cost of capital. That is our target, our main target. And then in numbers 0.6 and 0.7, we will discuss pitfalls related to the cost of capital estimation. And why cost of capital is important? And because, we know that return earned on assets depend on the risk of those assets. The higher risk, and remember, the higher system risk, the higher return. So the cost of capital, in chapter 3, we study about the return, the expected return of one investment, right? So it looks like two sides of one coin. On one side, that is the required return of investor, and on another side, that is the cost of capital of the firm, right? When the firm, they mobilize capital from two sources, one from debt and one from equity, and they don't have the capital for free. For debt, they had to pay interest, and for equity, they had to pay dividend, or in another form, in the form of capital gain for investor. But capital gain is not the liability of the company. Okay, the dividend is okay. So the cost of capital can provide us with an indication of how the market views the risk of our assets, the company asset. And knowing our cost of capital also can help us to determine our required return for capital budgeting project. So for example, when we decide to conduct an investment, that we should know how much we require for return for that investment if we know our cost of capital. And the required return xuất sinh lời yêu cầu, is the same as the appropriate discount rate, and it's based on the risk of the cash flow. And this I mentioned many times before, that this is the R. We see this R many times in previous chapter. In chapter 2, R is in BV when we discount the cash flow, R in FV when we want to find the growth rate of the money or the compounded interest rate. And R in stock valuation as the required return for the stock, and R in the bond valuation as YTM, and bond in project evaluation as the cost of capital or the cost of that investment, or even it had the form of IR. They had different form, different meaning, but they have one thing in common, that R will reflect the risk of the cash flow that it discounts. The higher the risk of the cash flow, the higher the R. Okay? So this is the structure of this chapter. Okay, basically the firm, this is the balance sheet of the company. We have assets here, and we have liability. This is the simple balance sheet. And in the liability, we have debt. And then we have equity. Okay, and then we have total liability and total assets here. Total assets here. Okay. So so this is the true source of capital of the company. So we need to estimate the cost of each source, and then we take the weighted average. Yeah, so that we estimate we have the weight of debt and the cost of debt. And if we know the weight of equity and the cost of equity, then we can estimate the cost of capital. The cost of capital. Yeah, that is the average. This is how we the abbreviation of cost of capital, weighted average cost of capital, is equal to basically W E E and plus W G, R G, and multiply for 1, subtract for corporate tax rate. I'm gonna explain you why we come up with this formula, but the general idea is cost of capital is the weighted average, of the components of the capital, and the tax rate here we will explain. Okay, now we estimate one by one. Estimate the cost of equity first. And remember, the cost of equity is the return required by equity investor given the risk of the cash flow from the firm's equity investor that invest in the stock. There are two major methods for determining the cost of equity. One approach is we use dividend growth model we studied in chapter 2. And another approach is we use the security market line or CAPM approach that we study in chapter 3. Okay, there's nothing new that we already studied in previous chapters. So in chapter 2, this is what we learned. This is the Golden Crow model. Wait, remember the assumption is the dividend grow at a constant rate. Remember. And then we take out the RE. That is the discount rate. So dividend here is D1 is dividend. Dividend. Dividend of next year. Or next year dividend. And this is the current stock price, and this is the constant growth rate. Okay, please refer to chapter 2 for this formula. And this example is very simple, expected to pay dividend, and so this is D1, steady growth rate, and this is growth rate, and the current price. So we have RE, expected return equal to 1 divided by base 0 plus G. Okay, please come up with the result yourself, okay? Oh, okay, I already did. Okay, remember the advantages and disadvantages of dividend growth model. Please refer to chapter 2 for it. And remember one pitfall of this dividend growth model is it assumes that dividend has to grow at a constant rate. And then the company has to pay dividend, and without that assumption, then we cannot apply the dividend growth model. Remember. And please read more in this slide to understand the advantages and disadvantages of dividend growth model. Okay, the second approach is we use the security market line approach that we just studied in chapter 3. Okay, and we use the following information to compute our cost of equity. We have risk-free rate, we have the market risk premium, and we have the systematic risk of assets beta. And this is the CAPM model, right? Okay, so suppose that your company had an equity beta of 0.58. This is beta. and the current risk-free rate, and the CRF, and expected market risk premium. Remember, this is already the premium, so this is expected return of the market. Subtract for IF, yeah, is 8.6%. So apply the formula and we come up with the expected return of the stock. Yeah. So 11.1%. And look at this. We use this approach. We also have the same similar or almost identical the return of equity. Yeah. But remember, the two approach, dividend growth model approach, and the SML approach do not necessarily come up with the same expected return for equity. Yeah, they're not expected to give the same result. Because they have different approach, different assumption. Yeah, so it's a coincidence that they give the same, the identical expected return for equity. But if you have different result using different approach, that is pretty normal. Okay, this is the advantages and disadvantages of SML. So yeah, please take a look and refer more in the textbook and also what we already learned in chapter 3. Okay. Remember the assumption of the SML, that is, yeah, the investor, they behave in the traditional way, that yeah, there are no arbitrage opportunity, yeah, and the market is at the equilibrium, so that we have the security market line. Okay, please work on this example. Now we go for cost of debt. Yeah, the cost of debt is the required return on company's debt. Okay, and how we do? We remember and note that we usually focus on the cost of long-term debt or bonds. And the best estimation of cost of debt is to compute the YTM on the existing debt. Okay, and if we don't have existing debt, we can use the reference YTM. That is the YTM of a similar bond in the market. Yeah, that already set up in the market. We use that YTM of that bond as the reference point for our bond. Okay, and remember the cost of debt is not the coupon rate. That is the YTM. For example, look at this bond. This bond have 25 years, so this is T, the coupon rate, the coupon are paid semi-annually, so N equal to 2, and this is the price, and this is the M, and what is the cost of debt, and that's it, the question of Y. Yeah, remember the formula, bond value B. I will write out the formula for you, yeah. The P of the bond, huh? C divided by E. Yeah, this is the formula. So we replace the number here. Yeah, it's a B. With coupon rate is 9% and the face value of 1,000, so we come up with, and this is semi-annually, so this is 1,000 multiplied by 9% and divided by 2. Yeah, that is the coupon per half year. Y divided by 2. Uh, 50. Yeah, and plus 1,000. Yeah, I will solve the equation for